If I told you that this smartwatch with no touchscreen and a relatively low resolution display costs £729, you'd probably tell me to shove it up my behind. But this is no ordinary smartwatch. It is one of the best smart sports watches, of course created by the kings at Garmin. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas and thanks to Garmin for sending the product out to review. This is my review of the Garmin Fenix 6 Pro Solar. Straight away we need to talk about what this thing is and who it's for. So what it's not is a replacement to an Apple Watch. It is not going to have all the functionality that you would expect from a smartwatch, something running Wear OS or similar. It is instead a fitness focused sports watch that really is made for athletes, whether they be amateur or professional. Do I have all the gear to test how accurate it is? No, but I can go off of how I feel and what other things other smartwatches have told me in the past. I am definitely not a sports scientist, but I have used a fair amount of smartwatches in my time, so having something like a proper fitness sports watch is going to be fun. Let's talk about the fit and finish to start with. The Fenix 6 Pro Solar is built like a tank. The bezel is made from either stainless steel or diamond-like carbon-coated titanium, depending on the SKU that you go for, and all of them come with Garmin's Power Glass front element on the display. It looks and feels pretty hefty, so isn't particularly elegant, but I do think looks pretty good regardless. The buttons require a solid amount of pressure to actuate and in return offer an audible and tactile click. The watch is pretty large and on my tiny wrist does look quite hilarious, but I didn't find it to interfere. And talking of its longevity, I came off my mountain bike the other day. Not a fun experience, I wouldn't recommend it, but the watch didn't suffer a single scratch. Even though it wasn't protected by a jumper, it was out in full view, and I landed on that arm and it worked out pretty well. Not for me of course, but for the watch. The included rubber strap kind of irritated my skin, but I think that's more due to my skin and rubber straps in general. I would prefer something like a pleather or maybe a stainless steel, but then it doesn't really work the same as a sports watch. For sports watches you really do want some kind of rubber there because they work best in sort of those kinds of environments. So just something to watch out for. If you've had problems with other rubber straps, you probably will have problems with this one. I've been wearing the Fenix 6 Pro Solar for just over a month and it still looks mint, which is good because that's kind of what you pay for. Setting up the 6 Pro Solar with my iPhone 12 mini was absolutely painless. It just required you download the Garmin Connect app and from there it walks you through the whole process. That app is also available on Android as you'd expect and works pretty well. We'll talk about the app a little bit later. Before we dig into the menus and tracking info, I want to discuss performance and battery life. The former was absolutely not a problem for me. This watch isn't made to be super smooth, and so the way you use the watch and the way the menus interact, there aren't any animations to really drive. It's more of a click by click, and I'll show you and try and show you in B-roll anyway. So I never found any kind of lag, any hangs, anything like that. And as for the battery life, this thing lasts me anywhere between 1 and 2 weeks. So because it doesn't have a permanent backlight to the display and stuff in the menus is toned down to really focus on the sports element and not necessarily on a smartwatch kind of element, it means that you're able to get over a week's battery life with this thing, which is brilliant. I found the charging to be pretty slow, but then I am kind of used to like Realme 65 watt charging speed, so there we go. But the actual connector itself is proprietary, it's not Qi wireless. However, the connector is really nice, it feels really sturdy when you plug it in, and it's just this 4-pin connection on the bottom, terminating in a USB-A. The 1.3 inch 260 by 260 transflective memory in pixel display is fantastic. It doesn't get bright and vibrant like an Apple Watch, instead is very basic, but that's what makes it great. It doesn't need a backlight most of the time, and when it does, you just click the top left button and away you go. The watch faces range from standard watch faces to more in-depth ones with fitness and weather statistics to update in real time. My favourite one is this one that has the time, day, altitude, battery and weather stats. You can download more using the Connect IQ app, which is pretty good as well. This app does let you install apps like Spotify, Deezer, Strava, Trailforks, Komoot and more. If I had to be nitpicky, I'd say that I'd rather all of that go into one app, and having two is a bit awkward, but there we are. The main Garmin Connect app is comprehensive, allowing you to customize which metrics appear where on the main screen. There's heart rate, body battery, which we'll talk about a little bit later, stress levels, steps, calories, sleep, sleep score, and more. There's heaps on there. It allows you to join challenges and collect badges if you complete them, along with organising your workouts, viewing your profile, and changing a large amount of the watch's settings from the app. This is one of the best fitness apps that I've ever used, purely due to the sheer amount of stuff in it. But I want to talk about body battery for a minute. It's a really cool piece of technology. Essentially, it takes a bunch of different metrics like sleep, heart rate variability and stuff like that, and puts it into a score like a battery percentage that you'd have on your smartphone to tell where you are. When you're fully rested, you're 100%, and when you're completely drained, you're 0%. I really like the fact that it simplifies otherwise complicated metrics into an easy to understand number that you can use to check your stress levels. Should you take it as gospel? Absolutely not, but it is good to have that throughout the day to tell where you are. Can you go for a run? Are you just being lazy, or are you actually that drained? Anyway, back to the watch now. The menus aren't the most intuitive in the world. The bottom two buttons on the left are up and down, the bottom right button is back, and the top is for both select and a shortcut to start an activity when you're on the home screen. After well over a month with the watch, try saying that 5 times fast, the menus became a lot easier to use. I'm just coming from a completely different idea of a watch, so I'm coming from like an Apple Watch. This doesn't feel the same kind of intuitiveness as you would find in one of those. However, again, it's not meant to be like one of those. After a couple of weeks, I'd say you kind of learn where everything is. It's just not as intuitive as you'd expect. And maybe that's coming from the touchscreen generation, I don't know. Notifications come up really quickly, only maybe a second behind my iPhone, and they're clear and bright. Tracking workouts is really easy. You press the top right button when you're on the home screen, and you can select from a bunch of preset workouts that you can select, so you don't have just a list of stuff you don't use. I mostly use mountain biking, road cycling, and running and walking. You can put all those in there or at the top so that they're easy to find. What you need to remember is once you've selected it, it looks like it's already started, but you actually have to press the top right button again once it's found GPS to start the workout. I messed up my first time actually using this thing, and I had to use my Wahoo kind of bike computer. I used that as well just to make sure that I got the correct data. Thankfully I did have the Wahoo, but with the Garmin I didn't know that you had to press the top right button, and it makes sense once you do it, but when you haven't done it before it just feels a little bit weird. From there actually it uploads straight to Strava if you have that connected, and talking of that, the connectivity was a bit weird on my end, so I'm not sure if they've ironed out the bug yet or not, but I couldn't do it on my phone. It wouldn't open the web browser, so I went on the desktop, did it through the desktop browser, going into Garmin Connect and then adding the Strava widget, and doing it this way was absolutely painless, worked first time. And every time that you would finish a workout, say you've just done a run, you stop it, you save it, not only does the data go to Garmin Connect app, but it also goes straight to Strava. You don't have to think about it. And it is worth saying that you will need a Strava premium subscription to get more detailed statistics, but for basic statistics like time, GPS, stuff like that, you can just use a free Strava account, it's fine. So after all of that, should you buy a Fenix Pro 6 Silver? Or Fenix 6 Pro Silver? That is such a weird name. My answer is a little bit nuanced. So if you're looking for a standard sports watch or a smartwatch, no, you shouldn't buy it. It's a lot of money. However, if you're starting to get serious, or you are serious about your fitness, this thing is fantastic. Garmin is leading the way in terms of sort of smart devices for sports, and that's not something they've paid me to say or told me to say. They haven't had a single input on this video other than sending me the watch, but Garmin just is one of the top ones there. It doesn't offer as many just funky features as a smartwatch. It's definitely not a smartwatch. It's a sports watch for people who are really interested or invested in sports. Like I said at the beginning, it's designed for athletes, whether you be amateur or professional, just someone who's serious about that kind of thing. If you're interested in one of these and you're not interested in going full on into the sports thing, I think you're doing this a disservice. I don't think you'd use nearly any of the features, and it would feel like a bit of a waste of money. And to throw my hat into the ring here, I was quite skeptical about using this thing when I first got it. I thought, you know, I am into my sports, I do run, I do cycle, but I'm not like an athlete. I wouldn't call myself even an amateur athlete. But what I will say is that the way that this thing is so seamless to integrate into Strava and to collect all of the data, I don't need another heart rate monitor. It's already on here. It's very seamless. It doesn't need charging very often at all. All of that put together makes this something that I would consider using going forward. Would I rather have an Apple Watch? I don't think I would. I think the fact that I only need to charge this every 1 to 2 weeks and the fact that it's so integral into my training works really well. And I best stop the video here because we could be here forever talking about this thing. I want to thank Garmin for sending out the watch. I just emailed them one day, had no contact with them whatsoever, and they just offered to send one out, which was great. And I really enjoyed getting the B-roll for this thing because it is a different sort of wearable. It's a different sort of product to film. I have got a bunch of other smartwatches. Damien has actually sent me some smartwatches from Huawei and TicWatch, which I will be checking out on the channel not very far from now. And yeah, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you're new around here to never miss a video like this one. Let me know how the colours look on this camera because I re-recorded it with a slightly different colour profile, so hopefully it doesn't look too far one way or the other. I want to thank my patrons for being continually supportive. You guys are awesome. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Peace.